Hey guys, and welcome to another Patreon exclusive video for the Final Down NFL podcast with me, Jim, and Punk Raider. And today is another
We've
special
locked him
one.
back in the basement.
Yeah, well, we wanted to talk about proper football, so we thought we'd get rid of the unlearned, and by that I mean the only one of us that didn't finish secondary school outside Nottingham anyway. Yeah, so there's no Dave today, but we don't need him because we have been charged by another podcast, 99 Yards, with coming up with some awards. So they've been asking other podcasts to put in their awards for the Offensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, Coach of the Year, Coordinator of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. So we thought we'd
Feels like we're doing their work for them.
a little bit, but it's another chance for content for you guys. So we thought we'd jump on it. And yeah, we thought the two of us would butt heads and come to a consensus on what the Final Down is going to be putting forwards as those awards. So, Punk, I guess we'll talk about the MVP first, as it's obviously the most.
Do MVP, or do you want to do it in reverse order, or what do you want to do?
What's reverse from that? I don't know.
Come on. Well, I would say you probably go coordinate. Well, I don't mind. Pick one. Pick a category, any category. Let's talk about
spin a wheel. Let's do Coach of the Year then. Let's do Coach of the Year. Let's leave MVP for nearer the end.
All right.
Let's do Coach of the Year.
Nominations for Coach of the Year. Got any?
Oh, I thought you were going to read out the ones you. No, the ones you
I can do.
Yeah,
I can do. Okay. No, absolutely, I can do. So I've got on my list Zach Taylor.
Yep. Cincinnati Bengals.
Mr. LaFleur from the Green Bay Packers. Mike Vrabel of the Titans.
Tennessee Titans.
And a coach that's very close to my heart at the moment, Rich Bisaccia of the Las Vegas Raiders.
No, I'm going to
probably the outsider there, but
he's not been there the whole season.
Hang on a minute.
Just he hasn't been there the whole season.
Okay, he hasn't been there the whole season, so you're probably right. He is the rank outsider in this. However, I don't think there's never been an interim head coach that's taken a team to the playoffs, and B, there's never been a head coach or an interim head coach that's had to deal with the amount of nonsense that he's had to kind of coach the team through this season. So I think from that regard, he very at least deserves a mention, although he's probably not going to be the favorite to win this category.
Honorable mention. I guess the reason he is an interim head coach that's got a team through to playoffs is a special situation as to why that head coach has gone in the first place. Usually, if you've got a team that's heading to the playoffs, you don't get rid of the head coach unless there's something else.
I mean, you could put him in the coordinator role as well, because the Raiders do have the number one overall special teams unit in the league. So, he's wearing his two hats and he's juggling away, but he's doing pretty well at both, I'd say, at the minute. So
we've talked enough about the Raiders on this special pod.
Disgraceful. Disgraceful.
Let's talk about an actual favorite then, because I know who I want to put forwards for it.
Okay, so let's initially talk then about what Matt LaFleur's been doing in Green Bay. So this it's what his fourth year now.
Third year.
That offense is still an absolute machine. Aaron Rodgers is still,
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm sure, just being Aaron Rodgers and not throwing interceptions and throwing lots to
Devontae Adams,
wide receivers,
Alan Lazard,
wide receivers that can catch the ball. So that's always good. And the defense has definitely improved this year. And you got the number one seed in the NFC, which a lot of people at the start of the season were saying was going to be a tough conference with resurgent Rams with Matt Stafford in there and so on and so forth. Well, yeah, but you could say that almost every year about the Green Bay Packers since Aaron Rodgers took over from Brett Favre.
I do.
But the Green Bay Packers are a very lucky organization to have him at quarterback. As far as actual coaching, what do you think? Have you seen him do anything spectacular this year?
I guess that's the problem.
Or has it just been much of the same old?
It's the problem. It's like being the offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning. It's like, how do we know what you did? And until you're in a bad situation, I can't tell you what you actually do. So the
problem is your level is up here, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing.
I agree.
So I can't give him it. I can't. It's a 13-4 record. The only team in the league this year that got to 13 wins, but I can't give Matt LaFleur Coach of the Year. I just can't. Sorry. So it's then between Mike Vrabel. Now this is a good one because they didn't have they got knocked out of the playoffs in the first round by the Ravens last year. That was embarrassing. And this year they've had to deal with most of the season without Derrick Henry. Was it week 8? Week 8 he went down.
Yeah.
So, they thought that, well, you put it on Tannehill, they're not going to win many games, but he managed to keep the team going. He managed to keep the wins coming, and they got the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is not easy when you've got a team like the Chiefs that are rolling to win that.
And
they normally do.
It's definitely not easy when you've got to completely change your game plan halfway through a regular season because your number 1 weapon has gone down. So, I think Vrabel and his next man up mentality that he's brought with him from all those years at the Patriots as a player has actually worked very well in Tennessee's favor. The other thing I think that they've improved massively on this year is their defense. Last year, their defense could be got at quite easily, especially through the air. So actually, I think with his defensive mindedness, him and his coordinator have worked out ways to kind of mitigate that a bit. And yeah, I mean, I think he's done a fantastic job, to be honest. And in an AFC that's been absolutely cuckoo most of the season, and even with those couple of weird losses they had to the Jets and the Texans, they still haven't been as madcap and weird and wonderful as pretty much every other team in the AFC has. So yeah, I think Vrabel's very much in the running for this.
Yeah, he would be my runner-up.
Your runner-up?
He would be my runner-up. As much as it pains me to do this, Punk, I want to put forward Zach Taylor.
You wish to honour Zach Taylor as the Coach of the Year for the job that he's done with the Cincinnati Bengals. All right. Yeah. At least you made the playoffs. I bet if you hadn't made the playoffs, you wouldn't have made that pick.
Well,
it
would have been harder. It would have been harder. I would have probably
happier.
gone for Vrabel. Look at it. I mean, it's his first head coaching job after 16 years of Marvin Lewis mediocrity. They take a punt on this guy just because it was in the same building as Sean McVay for a few years with the Rams. He took a team from 2-14 in his first season to 4-11 in his second season, and now this year he's gone 10-7. I say I was going to say 10-6. In apart from the NFC West, the North in either the AFC or NFC is one of the most difficult divisions to win if your name's not the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers in it. So to come out of that, to go from worst to first, as I was saying in the pod earlier this week, that is surprising, and you've got to take your hat off to it because he doesn't have a full team. He may have a Hall of Fame quarterback there in the future, but he's got a long way to go. But the moves they've made are sound. The coaching, I mean, they've cleared out the crappy attitude and the kind of dirty attitude that was in Cincinnati. They brought in good players and they brought in sound schemes. They can move the ball. It's just a much sounder organization, and I think you've got to give him credit for that. And to move it around from, like I said, a 2-14 to a 10-7 in 2 seasons is more than admirable, and I think he deserves it.
You find me anybody that had the Cincinnati Bengals winning that division this year, and I will absolutely call them a liar to their face.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I know who had picked either the Ravens or the Browns. Few people would have picked the Steelers just because they're homers and all the rest of it. But absolutely nobody on this planet will convince me that anybody picked the Bengals to win that division. Especially with Burrow coming off an injury. A rookie in Jamar Chase that is just that, a rookie.
And in preseason was dropping balls, and remember the stories coming out preseason that he couldn't see the ball properly and that kind of rubbish.
Couldn't see the ball properly because it didn't have the white stripe on it, and so on and so forth.
Smoke and mirrors.
And the way that offensive line's played as well. You know, the last few years it's been an absolute turnstile, as the record suggests.
Yep.
So I think Zach Taylor would be a very, very worthy winner of this award, to be honest. So I think actually we're going to agree. I think we both agree that Zach Taylor, congratulations.
Yeah, that is our pick.
You are the coach of the year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's go away from the coaching for a little bit. We'll go to coordinator later. Let's go to offensive player of the year.
Do you want to do offensive player of the year, or do you want to do MVP and then offensive player of the year? Because inevitably with these things, they all you get the same list of names pretty much, don't you? So, for offensive player of the year and MVP, how about I just list a load of people and then we'll pick between the two of them.
Well, I already know who I want for my offensive player of the year and my MVP, but
okay. Well,
we've got a short list.
So the five that you've got on the short list are Jonathan Taylor, running back from the Colts, Aaron Rodgers, aforementioned, Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Bengals, whose coach has just won Coach of the Year, Cooper Kupp, wide receiver for the LA Rams.
Yeah,
I nearly said flipping St. Louis then. And the one I'm just chucking in off the back of the deep cut, and because I want to annoy you, Hunter Renfrow of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, guess how far that pick's going.
It's fine. No, I just chucked him in.
Right.
So yeah, out of the four outstanding candidates: Taylor, Rodgers, Burrow, and Kupp.
Yeah.
Who do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about Taylor, because this is a guy that is in his second season. He finished his first one incredibly strong. The first half of his rookie season was quiet, from what I remember. Second season, he strung a run together. We've seen that happen before. I mean, I'm going to blank on the name. Kenyon Drake was another guy. Remember him? Was it last year or 2 years ago for the Cardinals? He had a streak of a touchdown every game for like 8 games or something. So we see players get hot for streaks, and then next season they're not there. Or they're a shell of the person that you saw at the end of last season. Whoops, hitting stuff. So yeah, a part of me was worried that it was just going to be another one of those. So when it came to like fantasy draft, I wasn't buying in on him completely. Mistake, obviously. In hindsight, it would have been the first take, because he was the number 1 running back in the NFL this year. And
he took a
little bit deceptive as well. He's not as big as Derrick Henry. He's not as quick as some other running backs, but he seems to be the perfect hybrid and can still do everything, despite not being as big as you think he should be. He can run through you. He can run around you. He's got a great cut.
He's the next generation Adrian Peterson. He really is. He runs in exactly the same style as Adrian Peterson used to. He's a little bit shorter than Peterson and just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But the running style and the power that he gets and some of those nasty cuts he's got are just absolutely Adrian Peterson to a T.
Yeah.
That's how good I think he can be. Now, I'd say maybe the bounce against him is that when his team really needed him to do it in the last couple of games of the season. Colts obviously ended with back-to-back defeats against the Raiders and the Jaguars. So, it's a little bit of a question mark there maybe over his ability to carry the team. But then you would say, actually, once you're down in those games, in theory, you get away from the run game anyway, and it's actually more on the passing game.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think Taylor, as a second-year player, has been exceptional. I think, he's fully deserving of the rushing title. Whether or not he'd have got it if Derrick Henry had stayed fit, who knows? That would
unlikely.
Be both of them.
It took him a couple of weeks, didn't it, to jump past him?
Yeah, it did. Both of them fit for the full 17 weeks would be delicious to watch, I think. Because I think they will both get ridiculous amounts of yards. But for me, he's not the MVP.
No,
I don't think. I think if he had carried in, say, those last 2 games for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, then I think, and had taken the Colts to the playoffs, I think you would have had a better argument for him to be the MVP. But I think just over the course of the season, he's probably just fallen at the final hurdle, to be honest. But still,
all players
very
have
worthy
bad
of
games.
being
I mean,
on the list.
there's been games when Derek Henry's gone missing as well, or has been schemed out of the
Oh,
game.
absolutely.
Um,
yeah.
So I'm not going to hold that too much against him, and he definitely carried Dave through a lot of fantasy wins this season as well. So
yeah, I mean, anyone that's got to carry that lump on
that was
their
a lot
back,
of weight.
they're going to know about it. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a good job he's a bell cow running back, really, because otherwise he'd have to be an offensive lineman. But
yeah, but
I
think
just
you're right.
don't see
There's
him
something
as
that's
the
just a bit
MVP.
missing. Yeah, that's right. Someone's done better than that this year, in my opinion.
I think so. So who do you want to talk about next? Rodgers, Burrow, or Cup?
Let's talk about Burrow.
Let's talk about Burrow.
Yeah.
Coming off his ACL
why are you
injury.
putting him onto this list? Because as much as I admire him as a passer,
well, he's for me, Burrow
is he stood out from other quarterbacks?
He stood out enough. I think not so much early in the season where you could tell he was just a little unsure because of his surgery and so on and so forth. But I think since mid-season down the stretch, he's probably been as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not been throwing interceptions. He's been winning games for his team. Him and Jamar Chase have come up with this kind of, Jedi mind trick that seems
LSU
to bamboozle defensive backs. Well, yeah, but they're still NFL players, so I'm pretty certain defensive back NFL players have played together as well, but they don't seem to have the same chemistry that these guys do, And I just thought, you know what, if the coaches coached them up that well and he's been playing that well, actually he probably deserves to be on the list. Even if he doesn't win it, he probably deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as those people that are being touted to win it. So that's really the reason he's on there. Like I say, he's kind of you'd probably wanted to have seen more from him early doors. If I'm honest, if he's going to win it, but I think he deserved the mention.
They were still going through like wins and losses, weren't they? At the start of the season, so they think they won the first 3, wasn't it? They had a good start to the season. Oh no, it was won 3 of the first 4 games. And so they were doing well, and that kind of helped them move on.
Yeah.
They only lost 2 in a row at any point in the season. So they never had more than 2 losses in a row. I think you're right. I think what we saw from Burrow was that step forward, and he looked like a number 1 overall pick. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks not looking like a first-round pick or not looking like a first overall pick. Burrow looks like he is that kind of nailed on. As long as you keep him healthy, he likes to be a leader. He's the kind of person that wanted for Baker Mayfield at Cleveland. Is what they wanted, was that leader to come in.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I think the way Burrow has led that team this year, there's a very few number of NFL teams that wouldn't want that as a quarterback. I don't think there's that many real true leaders in the quarterback position. I know they all have the captain on their
it's a token, isn't it?
Jerseys, but let's be honest, 70% of them probably don't deserve it. So
no.
It's I think and as a second-year player, I think for him to be playing at that level and to have garnered that much respect around the league as well, I think it just goes to show that he is a true number 1 and a true franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be in the running for these for a long time.
Absolutely.
I don't think he needs to worry about not winning it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I want to talk about Cooper Kupp, because I want him as my offensive player of the year. I don't want Aaron Rodgers as my offensive player of the year.
So you want Cooper Kupp for offensive player of the year?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Well,
why Kupp and not Taylor?
Because let's start then. Reception leader,
rushing leader,
over 50 more than the previous best. Receiving yards leader, 786 more than his previous best, and he beat Megatron's record as well. Touchdown leader, 6 more than his previous career best, so he had 16 this year. No fumbles. He averaged 13.4 yards a carry. He played every game. What more can this guy do than what he did? Absolutely incredible. I mean, he was good with Jared Goff throwing at him. This is kind of reminiscent of DeAndre Hopkins. He had Dross throwing to him, and then you give him an even better quarterback, and he goes nuts every week.
Yeah.
I mean, if we talk about Jonathan Taylor carrying Dave's team, the other person he had was bloody Cooper Kupp. No wonder he won the division. No wonder he beat me by 2 games, because he had Cooper Kupp to lean on as well as Jonathan Taylor. Absolutely incredible. Cooper Kupp is not the person you would expect when you're talking about an elite number 1 wide receiver. You wouldn't draw him if you're going to build one in a lab. He's about 3 or 4 inches shorter than shorter than you'd expect or you'd want. He's probably about 20 pounds lighter than you'd want. But he gets through that with his incredible route running, his sticky hands, and his inability to go down as well. He seems to enjoy getting that contact. You know, some wide receivers, they get the ball and the first thing they're looking at is the sideline. Just get out of bounds 5 yards before I get towards the defender. Cooper Kupp goes right at the defender. And I like that kind of that finish the play mentality that he's got. So I can't think of how he could have done any more than he did this season.
He definitely has linebacker mentality in slot wide receiver body. He really does. But this is something of a bit of a trend that I'm noticing now in the NFL just over the last season or so, is that teams are starting to shift away from their number 1 receiver being the big-bodied 6'4" type receiver, and they are moving to these smaller, quicker guys that can, you know, break ankles and are good route runners and have that kind of, you know, I don't care mentality. There's a few of them around the league now, so I don't disagree with you at all. I think Cooper Kupp has been exceptionally good this year. I am absolutely gutted that Dave had him in fantasy, because I was eyeing him up literally about 2 picks after Dave took him. I've had him every other year that he's been in the league. Only this year I didn't get him.
Yeah,
he did, but then of course last season he was injured.
I mean, he could be a comeback player of the year, but
he could have been in for comeback player of the year, but there's other players in there. So yeah, no, I agree. I think offensive player of the year, Cooper Kupp, as you said. I mean, he was only, what was it in the end? It was about 70 yards, not even 70 yards short of Megatron's record. And, you know, with Matt Stafford throwing as many interceptions as he did this year, it's amazing that the Rams had enough possessions to actually keep Kupp that high in the standings. So, you know, some of it has to be down to him just creating the space and being open constantly, which is nothing to do with coaching, is nothing to do with, you know, Matt Stafford throwing him open. It's all Kupp and his route running. So yeah, absolutely agree. Offensive player of the year, Cooper Kupp.
When there's not really a running back for the Rams that you can lean on too heavily, Kupp is the focal point of that attack.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Didn't matter how many they gave an extra game to try and scheme against him. No one managed it. So yeah,
true. Cool.
Okay.
So we're agreed on, we're agreeing far too much. This is very weird. I'm not sure I like this. Right, next one.
There's lots more consensus. Do you want to do defensive player of the year now?
Should we do defensive player of the year? All right, this time I'm just going to run through the names quickly.
Sure.
And then maybe talk about a couple at the top.
Yep.
So I think we've probably got Aaron Donald in there.
Always.
I think Garrett's in there.
I wouldn't even put him in this year. He's looked poor on many games.
Yeah, he looks it, but actually, when you look at his stats and things, you know what? He's pretty much been there. The problem is, I think we've all been distracted by how bad the Browns have been, and we've kind of just lumped him in with everybody else. But actually, he's performed quite well
for himself.
I've put Max Crosby in there as a genuine, a genuine choice. I think to be a 4th round pick and come through and be getting similar numbers to Aaron Donald for this season has been absolutely phenomenal. And then I suppose the one that really we ought to put in, he got some dodgy record equal, didn't he? So TJ Watt is the other one that I put in there. So that's your pick. Watt, Donald, Crosby, and Garrett. It's
weird, isn't it, that we've not got one person for the secondary. We haven't got a linebacker in there. It's just all defensive linemen.
It is all defensive linemen, and I do wonder if that's because I did the list, and I love a
But I don't
defensive
disagree
lineman.
with you. I don't disagree with you.
But I was looking through. I did that thing where you kind of go, oh yeah, it's all defensive linemen. Who are the linebackers? And really, there's no real standout linebackers. Like last year, you had Barrett at Tampa Bay, and do you know what I mean? There just
he's still a
hasn't
rusher, isn't he?
been.
Still an edge rusher. His job is
Yeah, he
to
still
get
is,
to the
but
quarterback
he's
rather than to drop into
much more
coverage.
of an outside linebacker. But
Yeah.
there just haven't really been that many outstanding linebackers. I mean, yeah, I can pick up, Perryman with his tackles, and Mike Parsons has been there as well. But I just think the overall play for 17 weeks, I think these are the standout guys.
I guess if we were going to do a rookie defensive player of the year, I would have put Pat Surtain in there as well as Micah Parsons as an option on the shortlist.
I would have said those two would have been probably the two front runners in a defensive rookie of the year, definitely.
But no one, I mean, you could put Trayvon Diggs, but he's blown hot and cold.
Diggs was great for the first half of the season, and then just got beaten and torched time after time in the second half. So, if he'd even done half of what he'd done in the first half in the second half, you could have argued for him. But I honestly just don't see it.
Put your case forward then for Max Crosby.
I can't. The only thing I don't. Right. Okay. The first thing about Max Crosby is he's just all heart and motor.
He doesn't give up on the play. You're absolutely right.
His hand goes down, and that's it. He's going past his lineman and towards the quarterback. Whether or not he gets there is irrelevant. He's there or thereabouts every single play. Never takes a play off. Actually coming through as a fourth rounder as a defensive lineman is not easy. There are not that many edge rushers that reach those levels of 100 pressures in a season. I think he ended up with eight sacks. So there are still improvements to be made sack wise and so on and so forth. But it's the progress he's made just from last year to this year. You always thought he would come in spells and he'd be fine, and he'd have something happen in the off season, man, because he looks leaner but stronger. He's quicker. His motor just never stops running. You never see him coming out for a rest because he's tired. He's never taken a play off. He's always in the quarterback's face. I just love him. I think he and Hunter Renfrow are my two favorite Raiders at the minute, because they both just play with heart and they just don't stop.
He's definitely kind of replaced Khalil Mack for you. Is that always get at the quarterback kind of defensive line?
He has this season the one mark against Crosby at the moment, and it's not really against him because there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, is that I want him to be at that level for 2 or 3 seasons. I want him to be consistent. I don't want this to be a one-off. So although I put him in the list, and I could argue a case for him, I wouldn't have him as the winner.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, he's a very good season. I absolutely agree. He needs some help. He needs some other people like him on that line to take some pressure off. Aaron Donald gets the help, doesn't he?
And and Ngakoue was good in fits and starts this season, but he wasn't consistently good enough to help out. I mean, the one thing that I would love Crosby to get is some holding calls every now and then. I think I've seen 2 all season. He gets
all the best
held
ones
on
get held
every single play. It's absolutely infuriating.
It's a badge of pride, Bunk.
It is, but at least he's getting the double teams now.
If you're not getting held, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, true, very true. But yeah, no, Crosby's an honourable mention. I wouldn't actually have him as my winner.
So we're down to 2. First off, the guy that won it last year, Aaron Donald,
and the year before.
A man you have deep love for.
Aaron Donald is just
what's he done this year that's stood out?
But that's the thing. He doesn't have to do anything to stand out because he's Aaron Donald. No, because he's Aaron Donald. He's like Aaron Rodgers.
This is a Pro Bowl vote, is it?
Bench is up there. His bench is up there, and he's hitting it constantly. He's absolutely smashing it. Again, 100+ pressures. I can't remember his sack number, but it's in the teens. This is a nose tackle, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like Warren Sapp, not
He's
like
now got
Aaron
Von Miller
Donald.
next to him.
Yeah, for a few games. I mean, have you actually watched any Rams games where Von Miller's been relevant?
A couple, maybe. I've heard his name a few times.
He's been there, but I wouldn't say that Aaron Donald is hitting those numbers because Von Miller turned up. Aaron Donald was hitting those numbers even before Von Miller turned up, and that was when the Rams were having problems on defense. However, as much as I love Aaron Donald, and he really does take my man crush a lot. He's had it 2 years on the trot.
He has.
And I think this guy that we're about to talk about maybe deserved it last year. I'm not 100% certain that I'm sold on that. But I know he was in the conversation, and I know you thought he should have had it last year.
I did.
As he managed to equal one of my favorite records of all time, not because of the way it was broken where Brett Favre fell over and got tagged, but because of what the record is, I'm going to allow you to give it to your player. And that's it. The floor is open to you. Wax lyrical.
You're absolutely right, Punk. I mean, arguably the best defensive player last year as well. He got 15 sacks that year. He played 15 games, got 15 sacks. This year, he upped it to 22 and a half to equal Michael Strahan's amazing record. And he only played 15 games still. So he didn't play 17 games. He played 15 games to get 22 and a half sacks too. So when you're looking at that kind of league high production of getting 15 sacks, or he was tied with Garrett, to then up it by another 7.5 sacks is fairly incredible, especially when you lost Bud Dupree on the other side. You've now got a rookie in Alex Highsmith as the other outside linebacker. You lost you lost Tyson Alualu before the season started. They sold Javon Hargrave, traded Javon Hargrave to the Eagles. So that's one of our better, it was a very good nose tackle for us. Stephon Tuitt has not been healthy most of the season from what I can remember. So he's had to deal with a lot. Devin Bush has not been he's still been recovering from his knee injury. So he has not been 100%, not looked like he did in his rookie season. So to do that, 15 games, a league high tackle for loss with 21, league high QB hits with 39, and league high fumble recoveries with 3. He ticks so many boxes. He's just signed a massive contract before the season started. And usually, once you've had that top contract, you take the pedal off a little bit, don't you? I've got 4 years to go and to get these things sorted out. But no,
not when your brother is JJ Watt. He will not allow you.
Not when you grew up playing for Michigan. Kind of farm boy mentality. He is the ultimate professional. He has been nothing but perfect for us, and it is felt when he's not on the field because he's that good. He almost guarantees you sacks. He guarantees the quarterback pressure that we need to stay in these games. And he's going to be absolutely vital for any sort of win this week or the week after or into February. So
every offensive line, every quarterback schemes and looks for where he is on the line before any given play. And that's the biggest compliment you can give anybody. Same happens with Aaron Donald. Same things are starting to happen with Crosby. These guys are getting picked out and say, we have to neutralize that to even have a hope. I think TJ Watt has been superb this year. I know I antagonize you a bit on the podcast about it, but that's, all's great between exactly. But yeah, no, he has been exceptional this year, and to actually equal the sack record in a season that, the Steelers have not been great by any stretch of the imagination. No. It's a phenomenal achievement, to be honest. And, Michael Strahan's record stood for 20 years.
Yeah,
I wasn't convinced I'd ever see anyone do it until they moved to a longer season. So, the fact that he's done it in actually less games and didn't need Brett Favre falling over to be tapped on the ankle.
And they took one away from him as well.
To do it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they did. So, there you go. Yeah. Defensive player of the year then. TJ Watt.
So we've been in agreement on all of these so far, Punk.
I know it's
So
bad, isn't it? But this
we
just goes to show that. Yeah, but I was going to say this just goes to show that a good player is a good player, and if you're watching the NFL and you're going, he's actually really good, you're probably right. He probably is really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Where are we going now? Coordinator. Let's do coordinator.
Let's knock off coordinator. This should be relatively quick.
Let's do coordinator. So I've only got 2 on the list that I could think of. I mean, as you know, I picked one defense, one offense, just because I think they're guys that maybe going into the season didn't have the greatest groups. And so, or groups that had question marks about them. Let's put it that way. And so I think both of these guys have done an excellent job in coaching up their areas and improving what they've been given. So the first one is Leslie Frazier, the Bills D coordinator.
Yep.
And the second one is Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
Ooh, offensive coordinator for the Patriots and former head coach of the Bucking Broncos. But less said about that, the better. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Frazier was head coach of the Vikings for 3 years.
He was.
So he did get a chance back in 2000. I think it was. No, 2010. That's it. 2013 was his final season as head coach before then becoming a.
So you remember last season we were always saying about the Bills that they needed a pass rush and so on and so forth. And they couldn't really stop anybody on the run and all of that kind of stuff.
Great secondary.
Always had a good secondary, but really couldn't do anything rush wise. Well, this year the Bills D have given up the least amount of yards in the NFL, and they've given up the least amount of points. Now, you can only do that if you're stopping teams at the point of attack, and the point of attack are the trenches. It's the lines. So, he has to be in the running because there's only 2 of them.
True. Very true.
Because the Bills D went from average to number 1.
Yeah,
that's why he's in there. Josh McDaniels. I don't know really the stats on this, but I just like the fact that the Patriots have no offensive players in the Pro Bowl, and yet they have the 6th scoring offense with a rookie quarterback and a bunch of nobodies.
Well, when you say nobodies, I mean, they've still got some very good running backs, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson.
No, they have good running backs. What I'm saying is that they've done a Patriots thing of taking no-name players and making them better.
Hunter Henry do that, and Jonnu Smith. I mean, these were two of the top tight ends last season.
2 tight ends.
Yeah, but they were scoring touchdowns consistently for their teams, and they got brought across on big contracts. They were
big contracts. Don't give me that. You've got to pay a player.
What was 100 million on players in the off season?
They spent a ridiculous amount on tight ends. I know that.
Yeah, exactly. One then the other straight away. No, look. Josh McDaniels has been there a long time. You're absolutely right. They have been able to, as they did with Brady, scheme to the best traits of the quarterback they brought in. Quite how they didn't manage it with Cam Newton the season before. They're so genius.
Yeah, that's a weird one. But Cam being Cam, anything is possible.
But they had no one for him to throw to, and they didn't help him to option out either. So
they didn't scheme.
I don't want to relitigate last year. We shouldn't look at it in that way. But I always have a problem with McDaniels because I hate the guy for a start.
Well, I mean,
the way that he balked on the head coach job for Indy, not so much that you upset Indy, that I don't care about Indianapolis losing a head coach. It was more the fact that he had already brought in coordinators and staff had come into the building ready to start, and then he changed his mind because Belichick said something to him. And he came running back, got back on the plane, and left everyone in the lurch. So I'm going to find it extremely difficult to give it to Josh McDaniels over anyone, but especially when we've got someone like Leslie Frazier there, who's done, like you said, an incredible job with the Bills. Because let's not forget, that offense for the Bills has been putting up points. So the other team has to start slinging it. They have to go for it. And to still keep it to a league low on points conceded, that's even more impressive. It's not as if it was 6-6 games. They were literally putting up over 20 points a game, the Bills.
Yeah.
Except against, a couple of teams like the Jets.
and in weird games like the Patriots one, and where it's 36 and they've run it 47 times to 3.
I'm surprised Fraser's not being talked about more in terms of head coaching vacancies, because
I think he probably deserves another go, if I'm honest. He didn't do too much wrong when he was at the Vikings that I can remember, apart from it was just he was in that unlucky window between the kind of Adrian Peterson years and the kind of, let's call it the exciting offense years.
It's a good job Dave's
with Thielen and Cook and so on and so forth.
Yeah, this
absolutely.
was before Kirk Cousins was a stabilizing factor at quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And if Kirk Cousins is the stabilizing factor, then you can see what turmoil they were in.
Exactly.
So I think you're right. I think he probably is due another run as a head coach. So it sounds like we're actually going to agree on this one as well. You know me, I'm always a defensive guy. And when someone like Leslie Frazier comes along and goes, hey, I've been really good, I'm going to take him all day long.
Yeah,
so
it's class individual.
Congratulations. He is. He absolutely is. Much more so than Spygate Mr. McDaniels.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
not that we would never. Go. I mean, we'd give Belichick coach ever, maybe, but
Belichick best coach ever.
He'd be in the running.
He'd be in the top 5. I'll give him that. But yeah, I mean, I was struggling for an offensive coordinator, if I'm honest. I can't really think of many coordinators that have really, really stood out this year. I just thought McDaniels, with what he'd done with Mac Jones and a few other pieces, was actually quite impressive, because I think I had the Patriots only winning about 8 games. So, they exceeded expectation.
There were some terrible
but Leslie Frazier's been brilliant. I think he's been brilliant, especially the criticisms that we had of the Bills last year all got addressed, and all because he coached them up. So,
they drafted well like AJ Epinesa, and they're bedding them in with like Ed Oliver and people like that. So really, really good unit there. As we got so close, we might as well leave MVP for the last one. Let's do comeback player of the year, Punk. We've got 2
comeback player of the year. So we've got 3 in this category.
Yep.
One is a repetition from the offensive player list. So that's Joe Burrow coming back off his ACL. The other 2 I've put in this category are Nick Bosa and Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to talk about any of these. I'm just going to let you talk about them. I mean, Burrow, we've already kind of spoken about. We know what a great season he's had. So, Prescott, again, coming back off that horrible leg injury.
Yeah.
Carted off.
Only played 5 games last season. And boy, did the Cowboys feel it. The remainder of the season where he wasn't there, they ended up 6-10 and 3rd in the NFC least. So they got him back. And look what he's done, man. Career best for completions and completion percentage. Almost 4,500 passing yards. The career and franchise record for touchdown passes at 37, beating Romo. And a rating of 100, over 100 for the first time since he won Offensive Rookie of the Year.
It's pretty good going.
To see them going from that to then 12-5 record with the 3rd overall seed in the NFC.
Even though they're playing in the East.
Even though they're playing in the East, even though that is a fact, I couldn't even bother thinking about Nick Bosa, because how many sacks has Nick Bosa got? How impactful has he been for the 49ers? He hasn't played every game.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I was just picking names, and I wanted a defensive player in there. So
Look, we're going to be in agreement again, Punk. I think that Prescott is the comeback player of the year. I think he is the comeback player of the year from what they've done.
You don't think it's Joe Burrow?
I don't, because Joe played more games than Dak.
Going into this season, the Cowboys were favourites to win their division. The Bengals were not.
By me. I wouldn't put the Cowboys
Washington
near the top of that division. Washington would have been the favourites.
Of course you would have done. Top of their division. Washington, Dallas, Eagles and Giants. You're telling me that you didn't have the Cowboys as favourites?
No, I had Washington.
You might have had Washington. Yeah, I mean, I know I did, because that's what cost me my bet. But, that'll teach
I was
me.
expecting them to be better with with Dak back, but what he did really, really well this season. I don't think they're going to get too far in the playoffs because they're the Cowboys, but I was super impressed with what he did.
See, I'm on the fence. I can definitely argue for Burrow here. I think Burrow coming back off that ACL, winning that division, bearing in mind who's in that division, and that everyone had them finishing bottom or possibly third, depending on how crap the Steelers were. It's a tricky one. I mean, Prescott, Burrow.
For me, comeback feels like you were bad for a season, you came back and were good. And I don't feel like Joe Burrow was ever really bad. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's about being bad. I think it's being
maybe
knackered,
that's the wrong way of me looking at it, but that's
maybe
kind of how I felt.
Who won it last year? It was Alex Smith, wasn't it? Because was that last year or the year before?
I think so, yeah.
I've lost count. Yeah, so it's a player that's fought through adversity and come back from injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'll give it to Dak. His injury was worse than Burrow's.
He was out for much more of the season.
He was more injured because I think he did his MCL, his ACL, and fractured his tib all at the same time.
So might as well in for a penny, in for a pound, aren't you?
So do it properly. Go on. I'll give it you. Burrow's got plenty of time.
Complete consensus. Exactly.
I'm giving a Cowboy an award. What's going on here?
Comeback player of the year,
really?
Punk. It's not, There's much better ones. We didn't give him anywhere near the other ones, did we? So, MVP, the one that everyone's come for.
The big
We've managed to string it out to the end.
Okay, so I guess then the available players then are going to be the Offensive Player of the Year awards. So Taylor, Rogers, Burrow, Cup, or it's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year award, which is Watt, Donald, Crosby, and Garrett. Or you could just give it to Daniel Carson as the best special teams player and be done with it.
Could do. I think Justin Tucker would beat Carson if you were picking kickers. But...
No, not this season.
Was it 64 yards this season? Kicked the record, which should never be beaten.
One kick.
He won several games for them this year.
Look, I guarantee you, within a couple of years, someone at that stupid Mile High Stadium is going to end up punting one from 70. Seabass almost did it 10 years ago, if not more. So, there will be a kicker that does it. Don't worry. Anyway, let's get back to the important stuff.
Let's finish
about kickers. Okay. I think we talked about everybody, really, haven't we? Other than maybe one person.
Can you guess who I've gone for as my MVP?
I've got a feeling. I think we both agreed anyway. Go on.
Well, it's the guy that won it last year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Aaron Rodgers. He's still the reason, though, that the Packers have won the NFC North.
And the number one seed.
He still has the league's best QB rating. He still has the best touchdown percentage ratio and interception percentage ratio. I mean, 37 touchdowns, 37 touchdowns to 4 interceptions.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's not fair, is what it is. I mean, the other teams in the NFC North are going to be glad to see the back of him. The Bears had it spelled out to them during their game when he told them that he owns them. I mean, they knew it, but to actually say it, it just kind of rams it home. The Vikings can't move on because they live in the shadow of him. And the Lions,
the Vikings are going to pick him up when he decides to retire, like they did with Brett Favre for one season, just so they know what it feels like.
Well, maybe when he's retired properly, he might come back for one season. But while he's still got a chance,
is he now?
He's 38. He's 38. So he's only a year younger
and he's
than
still doing that.
Brady.
Oh God, he's going to go for another 6 years, isn't he? He's going to do a Brady and be around till he's 45.
I don't know. He's unvaxxed, Punk. We don't know how he's going to last with ivermectin and.
This is true, but we're also not going to hold that against him.
No. The shenanigans aside, I think that you can't get away from what he's done this year.
No, I think
it's the reason they're the only team that's won 13 games. You talked about LaFleur potentially getting Coach of the Year. He wouldn't be anywhere near it if Aaron Rodgers wasn't on the field. He wouldn't be sniffing around that. He would be lucky to be winning that division. I think next year, I predicted this year if Rodgers wasn't going to be there, there's going to be some cold, long, hard years for the Packers coming up because unlike what they had last time, they don't have an heir apparent coming in there. Jordan Love
is not the man.
said it before the draft. You know, Utah State saw his film, wasn't impressed. He was a boom or bust launcher from the pocket, playing against fourth-tier defenses, which made him look a lot better than an NFL defense is going to make him look. So it's not going to be a smooth, easy transition for these pampered Packer fans.
No,
I very much hope that he rocks up in Pittsburgh for a year or two. You know, we're one of the teams that might be able to get him.
Pittsburgh.
One of the few teams that might be able to prime him.
One of the few teams. To be fair, there are going to be a lot of veteran quarterbacks floating around this offseason, I think. You know, even a few that probably people don't expect to be floating around, I think will be traded for and so on and so forth. So it's going to be an interesting QB carousel this year.
Yes.
But yes, Aaron Charles Rodgers, without a doubt, I think has been the MVP in the league. I don't think anyone even comes close to him, to be honest, at the minute. I don't think anyone can touch him. Certainly no one that we put in the Offensive Player of the Year list, which was pretty much the same as the MVP list. But when you actually look at who was in that list, the only one I'd say you could probably maybe make an argument for is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
But really, is he the MVP? Not entirely sure. Not entirely sure. But Aaron Rodgers, you know, just absolutely slinging it around. No, like you said, you know, you had to laugh when he did the whole own you thing at the Bears because it was true, and it's been true. And to actually stand there and say it in the middle of Soldier Field is, you know, ballsy to say the least.
Yeah, he's got a police escort, so he's all right, you know. But
yeah, I don't think I'd do it in the middle of Soldier Field, to be honest. But
no,
there you go.
No. So there we go.
So yeah, congratulations, Aaron Charles Rodgers.
And congratulations to us as well, Punk. Look at that, proper consensus. You know, very articulate.
It's mad.
Of us, you know, no arguing.
You know, we had the whole shortlist measured out. We were each thinking the same players. You know, there wasn't anyone stupid in there, like, you know, Jerry Jeudy or you know, it was good. It was nice to not have to have an argument.
Yeah. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much for being part of the community, and we'll be back very soon with another Patreon video. But until then, I've been Jim. That's been Punk Raider. Cheers.